Okay, so tonight is day 3 of the 7-day prayer challenge. My name is Jaslyn. If this is your first night here, thank you for joining us. On day 1, you got to go back and hear about who I am, where this came from. The recordings will go out on Sunday and Monday. I had a couple of people ask me about that. On Sunday and Monday, you guys will get the recording. So if you missed today, that's great. The reason they're not going out the next day is because I want you to be here and I don't want you to be dependent on watching it the next day. One thing I know for sure, especially about this community particularly, is that there is strength in numbers and that there is strength in your testimony. We talked about last night that you don't have no business. All of your business is God's business. And so we are overcome by the testimony. And so your testimony in this space is what is valued. What I am saying is great. What I am going to be imparting into you guys is great, but we are overcome by the testimony. So the testimonies that we are hearing is what is helping people to be able to get through on an individual need. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So tonight, wisdom. I actually love this topic. It is something that I pray for every single day. But when I was doing my studying today, I had a light bulb go off for me that I never even realized the ignorance that I had behind it. So before we get into talking about wisdom, I want to give you 2 other words. And tonight we're going to talk about King Solomon, but I want to give you 2 other words before we start to talk about wisdom. The first word is knowledge. The second word is understanding. And then is wisdom. Now, why am I telling you these other 2 words when tonight's topic is wisdom? Because first you have to have knowledge. In order to know is getting information. That's the first step. You go to school and they give you information. They give you knowledge, right? That's how you learned your ABCs. That's how you learned, you got that information, right? The second thing is going to be understanding. Now, we know the Bible tells us lean not into our own understanding, but if you read Proverbs, which I'm going to encourage you all to do, Proverbs is 31 chapters. Take a day, read a chapter every day. You will have Proverbs done in a month. If you a real gangster, sit down and read it all. It shouldn't take you more than an hour, and you spend that much time on Instagram. So you got time to read Proverbs. Sit down and read Proverbs. But you will often see wisdom and understanding paired together when you are reading Proverbs, right? So the second part is going to be understanding. Understanding is the comprehension of the information you have received. So remember, knowledge was we got the alphabets when we were in school. They gave us the letters, but then we were able to comprehend how to put those letters together and begin to form words. That's the comprehension. So comprehension, knowledge, information, understanding, comprehension, and then comes wisdom. Wisdom is now I have the knowledge, I have the understanding, and now I'm able to apply it. So I got the ABCs, I was able to form words. Now I can form sentences from the words I have because I have a comprehension of what is actually happening. And now I can apply all of this together. So I'm going to start off with the definition of what wisdom actually is. And so it's the ability to discern inner qualities and relationships, which is basically good sense. It's the discernment that we have. Discernment and understanding oftentimes are interchangeable depending on what version of the Bible that you're using. So wisdom, knowledge, and discernment and or understanding are all paired and coupled together. You really need all 3 of those. So oftentimes when I'm praying for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And for me, I realize I'm praying about it backwards. I need to pray, or I'm praying for it out of order. And we always want to be in order with God. So I had a conviction today when I was doing some deeper studying on this is God, I need to first pray for knowledge. I need to pray for understanding. And then I need to pray for wisdom. Now, the understanding that the Bible is talking about when it tells us this understanding throughout Proverbs and other verses is not the understanding that when we say lean not into your own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge him. That's different. That's when God does things that don't make sense because it's not a part of your understanding. It's not a part of your comprehension. That is where faith comes in. So godly understanding is faith. When things start to happen and it doesn't make sense, you can't understand why this is happening, that's where your faith kicks in. That's where you start to trust in God. But that has nothing to do with your wisdom. They're separate. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that right now because I don't want to put too much in the beginning. So the first scripture I'm going to give you guys for today is a scripture that anytime people start to talk about wisdom, this is the scripture that they use. And it's James chapter 1, verse 5 through 8. And it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea and blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. Believe and doubt in this particular verse is really saying your faith. Don't believe and not doubt. Have faith and believe that God is going to do what he has told you to do. So if you're asking God, not just for wisdom, but if you're asking God for anything, it says believe and not doubt. Why? Because if you do doubt it, then you're double-minded. And it says, what did the Bible say? A person who is double-minded is unstable in all they do. So have you ever seen somebody who can't make decisions? That's one of my biggest pet peeves, especially in managers. People who manage people, is they can't make decisions. Is what do you think? What do you think? Well, what do you think? What do you have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom about? What do you think? So this is why it's important. Again, when I got this revelation today of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, it definitely put something off in my mind. And I was like, oh my God, this is why so many people get it wrong, because they just think that they need wisdom. So you're asking for wisdom, but you have no knowledge and you have no understanding. Well, you can't get the wisdom if you don't have those things. So when we start to write out your prayers, when you start to say your prayers, when you start to ask God for wisdom, please do not forget to ask for knowledge and understanding. I'm going to say it again because I know some people just got on. Knowledge is the ABCs. That is the information. Understanding is putting the ABCs together into a word. The wisdom is being able to put all those words together to form a sentence. That is putting it all together. That is the comprehension and the application. I'm sorry, understanding is the comprehension. Wisdom is the actual application of putting all that together. You've applied your knowledge and your understanding. Okay? So we want to make sure that when we start asking for this, that we're asking God for knowledge, understanding, and the wisdom. And that application of the wisdom is what we're going to use to discern certain things in our lives. And that we're going to believe that he's going to give us that to us because we're asking in faith and believing. We're not going to be double-minded. So that can be on anything. The second part I want you to understand in this is lacking faith is so dangerous. Because he says you're unstable in all that you do. We know that without faith, it is impossible to please God. So if you can't please God, you're going to be unstable in what you do. So I want you to also pray in this season that your faith be strengthened, that your faith be lifted in this time, that if you're lacking faith, that he gives it to you. Because we saw in a scripture, and I don't have this written down, but it's one where he says, it's oftentimes we hear your faith has healed you. We talked about that on day one with the whole woman, the woman who had the issue of blood. He said, your faith healed you. The man who came and asked Jesus to heal his son, he said, I don't need to come and heal your son because your faith has healed your son. Faith has so much more power than we give it credit for. Faith is able to do so much more. We think faith is really like a magic wand, but no, faith is really, it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you switch on the switch of your lights, you know it's gonna come on. Why? Faith. When you turn the knob in your car, faith. I mentioned this in the when we had our Galentine's, the Write Your Vision brunch, and I mentioned it again on a workshop that we did back in the beginning of the year. And I'm going to give you how I describe faith and hope. Now, faith is, I believe that when I get to the mall, that there's going to be a parking spot for me in the front of the mall, that there's going to be a spot there for me. That's what I have faith in. That's what I'm believing. Faith is basically, what do you believe? I believe that when I get there, that spot is going to be there. Now, what is the hope? I'm sorry. That's what I have faith to believe. I hope that it's going to happen. No, sorry. Rearrange it. I hope that it's going to be there. I hope my parking spot is going to be there, right? My faith now has to be activated. What my faith does is my faith makes sure that I get into my car. My faith makes sure that I have gas inside of my car, that my car has been serviced, and that it's going to get me to what I'm hoping for. So you have to have your faith be activated to get what you are hoping for. So understand the difference between your faith and your hope, but they work together. Hoping for something and having no faith to actually do it, because faith without works is dead. Without actually having the works of getting in the car, putting the gas in, driving over there, I'll never know if what I hope for is going to come to pass. So allow your faith and hope to work together in that. So not having that faith can be very dangerous. Now, the main topic again tonight is wisdom. What I want to talk about, if you don't know, and I never assume that people know certain things, is that Solomon is known as the wisest man in the Bible. Now, why is Solomon known as the wisest man in the Bible? Oftentimes people say because he prayed and asked God for wisdom. That's actually not what Solomon prayed for. Solomon, if you go to 1 Kings chapter 3 and read verses 9 through 13, and I think right now I'm just going to read to you guys 9 and 10. But in verses 9 and 10, it says, "Give your servant therefore understanding, an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and bad, for who is able to judge among so great a people? It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this." So this all happened in a dream. So this is the caveat. If you are a dreamer, this is why it is so important to acknowledge your dreams, write your dreams down, because God will speak to you. God is speaking to Solomon in this point. He asked Solomon this question, but he asked him all of this in his dreams. Now, what people, again, often say is Solomon asked for wisdom. No, Solomon asked for an understanding heart. And he also asked to be able to discern between good and bad. And in return, what happened is God later on in the verse, it says, because you have asked of this, not only will I give you what you asked, but I will give you riches. I will give you wisdom. I will give you all of these other things, because there's so many other things that he could have asked for. Now, at this time, it's important to note why this is so important that Solomon asked for understanding and he asked for discernment. Is because Solomon was young. I couldn't find out how exactly old Solomon was, but it says that he was a young man. He was a young boy at this time. So when I like to think of this, I think of my child who is now 19 years old. Solomon was going to become the king. If you made that's equivalent to becoming the president of these United States of America. If you so happen to put my 19-year-old, who is an amazing human being, a wonderful child of God, as the president of these United States of America, I will be concerned. Because what I can assure you that my beautiful child would not be asking for is understanding and discernment. Our tax money probably would have been spent on Jordans. He probably would be going to war with all his enemies. He would not be judging accurately according to the word of God. Why? Because my beautiful child probably would not have asked for understanding and discernment. And when Solomon asked for this, God was like, you didn't ask for a lot of things that most people would have asked for. So because you didn't, I'm going to give you these other things. Now, even us, at this big age that we are as full-grown adults, the reindeer games we play in our prayers sometimes, we still ain't got enough sense to ask God for understanding and discernment. Lord, if you just give me this $1 million, this man in this mansion, million man in mansion. Lord, if you just give me the million, the man in the mansion, Father, I promise all the days of my life I will serve you. No. And he like, if you just would start off sometimes asking for understanding and discernment, I will give you the 3 M's. But you asking for the other stuff. You ain't got the knowledge, the understanding, or the wisdom to even be able to deal with your 3M's. Somebody put the 3M's in the chat because I'm praying on those. But I have to now make sure that I'm asking God. She said I got what I came for. Now I'm making sure that I'm asking God, Lord, before you give me the 3M's, I'm going to make sure that I am asking you for knowledge and understanding and impart upon me your wisdom so that I could manage these 3M's the best way that I can. Okay, Lord? So that was somebody's blessing, because let me tell you, it was mine. All right. So I want to give you a little background about Solomon, because he wanted to be a good and fair person as a young person, right? So Solomon, I'm gonna tell you the Crenshaw version of Solomon. If you want to read the King James, New King James, Message, Amplified, if you want to read the biblical way, not the Crenshaw version, which HGG has been telling me I need to put out, I just ain't did it yet. But if you want to read the biblical, I'm gonna have y'all go read this, and I'm gonna tell you where the scriptures are, but I'm gonna break it down in the Crenshaw version for you, okay? So David and Bathsheba. David is now, Saul has died. David has gone to battle with Saul's son. He now becomes king. You're going to read this in 2 Samuel chapters 1 and 2, not verses 1 and 2, chapters, 11 and 12. 2 Samuel chapters 11 and 12. That's going to give you the background of Solomon. Now, David, this version is the real life Crenshaw version, okay, y'all? And if you've heard this before, me tell the story, you already know where I'm going with this. David becomes the king. David wakes up, he goes out on his balcony, he looks down, he sees Bathsheba taking a bath, and he's like, go get her. Now, what I reference this to is, if you have not been saved your whole life and you've ever been to a club, there is a place called the VIP section. Now, the VIP section is the palace for David, right? David is in the VIP section of the club. Now, in the VIP section, you typically have an advantage to be able to see more of what is happening in the club, which is now the kingdom that David is reigning over, because you're in a higher place, right? So Bathsheba is over here minding her own self business over here, right? Taking a bath. She's the video vixen in the club. She's over not in the VIP section, but she's within David's sight. So David sees her. She got her fresh BBL. She just came back from Colombia. She over here looking good, right? David sees her. He tells one of his homeboys, hey, that baddie over there, I'm going to need you to go get her for me, right? Because David don't need to come from the palace. He's going to send somebody, right? So David sends his homeboy down. He goes, tells Bathsheba, hey, the homie up in VIP wants you to come up there. Go ahead and come. Bathsheba goes up to the VIP section. David's like, we gonna go to the back real quick. Bing, bang, boom. Have a nice day, right? Because Bathsheba's married. She got a whole husband. She shouldn't even been there, but that's neither here nor there. Time goes on. If you got the Flow app, Bathsheba's app was blue, which meant it was time that she should not have been doing nothing that she had no business doing, because blue means baby, it's going to be a baby, right? So when Bathsheba's blue left away on her Flow app and the red didn't come, she went and told David's homeboy that she seen in the club, like, hey, we have a problem because I'm pregnant, right? And so there's no way that I could be pregnant by anybody else, because my husband is out fighting for David, right? Now, this is David's grimy, but I'm a side note real quick. This is how I want you to realize that no matter how trifling you may be, that you can still be loved by God, because David, in all of his triflingness, and I'm not even done, and I don't know if triflingness is a real word, but we're going to coin it tonight. In all of his triflingness, David was still called a man after God's own heart. So back to our Crenshaw version of the story. So when Bathsheba sends the message back, you know what? She sent a DM to the homeboy. He goes and tells David she's pregnant. He's like, all right, bring her husband back. Like, I need you to bring her husband back, because now we can't make this seem like this my baby. So we gotta, have him go be with his wife. So Uriah comes back from war, and Uriah's like, nah, I'm riding with the king. I'm a no limit soldier. I'm gonna stay at the palace. Like, David's telling him go home. He like, nah, dog, I ain't going home. Like, I'm a fighter. I'm a soldier. I can't go home. I'm gonna stay here with you. So David's like, okay, well, let me get him drunk. Maybe if he get drunk, maybe he'll want to go down now and be with his wife. Uriah's still like, nah, send me back out on the, like, send me back out with my people. Like, I need to be out here fighting this good fight. So David's like, dang. All right. David becomes one of the first hitmen in the Bible to have somebody killed, right? So David tells his boy, hey, so this is what we got to do. He busts a move. He's like, I'm going to need you to not only just send him back to war, but I'm going to need you to put him on the front line. Being on the front line means I automatically know that you're not coming back. So he put out a hit on Uriah, basically. That's what the Crenshaw version of the Bible says. He puts the hit out on Uriah. Uriah goes back out to war. Uriah dies. So the homeboy DMs David back like, hey, check this out. Uriah is dead. He's like, bet. They go tell Bathsheba, your husband is dead. This is where we are. So Bathsheba now is grieving for her husband. Bathsheba is now like, okay, but I'm still pregnant. So David's like, after your grieving time is over, I'm going to go ahead and take you on to become my wife. Because now, he's trying to be the good guy. I don't want her out here being a widow, a single mom. Like, I'm going to be the good guy, and I'm going to marry one of my soldiers' wives, widows, because that's the right thing to do. Mind you, God knows what has happened behind the scenes. So Nathan, who went and had told David he was going to become king, gets a message from the Lord and is like, the Lord is not pleased with you. Hey, big dog, you know you out here living foul. You wrong. So he comes and he tells David this. Bathsheba gives birth to the baby, and the baby lives for 7 days. In the 7 days that the baby after the 7th day, the baby dies. The whole time David is praying, he's on his face praying, Lord, please let my baby live. Please let my baby live. But God is like, this is another caveat. You can have an effect on your children. And one thing we talk about, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about this later, but generational blessings and curses are a real thing, because God comes and tells David, I'm not going to kill you, but your child will not survive. Because of your sin, because of your triflingness, your child will not survive. He tells him this. So when the baby is born, the baby lives for 7 days. On that 7th day, the baby passes away. The servants come and tell David, like, basically, we don't know what to do, because he's been basically on his face, not talking to us, praying these 7 days. What is he going to do when he finds out the baby actually is dead? Finds out the baby actually has passed away, and David immediately gets up and starts to worship God. That's his first thing. So they're confused. Like, why? Because worship confuses the enemy. Your baby just died, but now you're worshiping. And David said, because when the baby was alive, I was praying for him. I had to pray for my child. But now that the baby is no longer alive, I still have to give gratitude and worship the Lord, because he is still good no matter what has happened. No, even though the outcome was not what I had been praying for, God is still good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to worship God. So after David starts to worship God, in the very next chapter, we are introduced again to this scenario between Bathsheba and David, and Bathsheba becomes pregnant again. This time she gets pregnant with Solomon. Who would have thought the hitman and the adulterer were going to give birth to the wisest man? Lean not into your own understanding, because I don't know about you, but that don't make no sense to me. But God does not make sense to us. We don't have to understand him. So God now says, I'm going to give you this child. I'm going to give you Solomon. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Solomon's name means peace. Or it means, if somebody could look that up for me really quickly, what does Solomon's name mean? I think it means peace. I didn't write it down, but I want to say Solomon's name means peace. So it does, thank you, Lex. After you have grieved, after you have murdered, after you have been an adulterer, after you have done all this, after your child has died, after you have worshiped, I'm going to bring you peace. Solomon is now birthed, the wisest man. So Solomon is now born, and we understand that his parents' circumstance had nothing to do with his destiny. Because why? Solomon had his own relationship with God. So how do we go in breaking generational curses? Is having our own relationship with God. We can be what is called the repairer of the breach. You can go in and start to break these things by having your own relationship, because God didn't go to David and Bathsheba and say, what is it that you want for your child? He went directly to Solomon, and Solomon says, I understand you. I have a relationship with you. I don't care what they did. I don't care what doors they opened. I don't care how trifling they were. My relationship with you, God, is I want to be a fair and a good person. That's who I want to be. I don't want to be who my parents were. I don't want to be a drug addict. I don't want to be out here on the whole stroll. I don't want to be out here conniving people. I don't want to be out here cheating people out their money. I don't want to be out here doing all the things that I know that you haven't called for me to do, God. I want to be a good and fair person. And God said, because that is what you have asked me for. Not only will I give you that, but I'm going to give you more. So that's the exceedingly abundantly more than you can ask for or imagine. Solomon got that. He's a living proof of how that works. I'm giving you more. So Solomon is born after David worships. He goes and he does that, right? So we see how now this wisdom is going to be imparted in Solomon, and we see it in real time. So if you go to 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 16 through 28, I'm not going to read it because I want you to read it for yourself, but I'm going to give you what? The Crenshaw version. So 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 16 through 28, we read that there's two women. Both of these women are harlots, whores, prostitutes, women of the street. I don't know where you come from, what your term may be. They for the streets in the real way, right? So both of these women is outside, and they both get pregnant with babies. One of them, her baby dies. She then takes the other woman's baby and says, this is my baby. Now, King Solomon is now the judge and has to judge amongst the people. He's the supreme court of all, right? So if you have a problem, you go before King Solomon, and King Solomon is going to give you a fair judgment. Why? Because he's a good and fair person on what should happen. So they take this one baby, these two women take this one baby to King Solomon, and they say, hey, this is my baby. This is my baby. I want my baby, right? So King Solomon says, well, you're saying it's your baby and you're saying it's your baby. Both of you guys were pregnant. Both of you guys gave birth. So I'm going to do what is fair, and I'm going to give you each a half of the baby. So that way each woman now has a fair portion. Each woman gets a half, right? The real mother says, no. No, I'm not going to even say the real mother. One of the women says, no, don't cut the baby in half. Give her the baby. Just give her the whole baby. I don't even want my half. Give her the whole baby. So the other woman is like, bet, I won my baby. Mind you, this is the one whose baby has died. King Solomon said, no, give the baby to the one who said, let the baby live. Why did he say that? Because he understood that a real mother is not going to hurt or harm her child because she wants her child to live. She wants her child to prosper. So I want to give my baby over to, I'd rather have my baby live with somebody else. And we see this, Moses' mother did the same thing. Instead of having my child be killed, I'm going to let somebody else raise my child, because at least I know my child is going to live. So he says, no, give the baby to the one who said, let the baby live, because that's really her baby. The other one was like, yep, okay, half of the baby's going to work for me. Because at that point, she ain't got nothing to lose. Her child has already passed away. She's already lost her child. Now, this is where I want us, I'm going to leave this. This is my last point for tonight. I want us to really take into account who you have in your circle. Who is around you? Who wants you to cut your baby in half? Who doesn't want you to have a whole baby? Who is so bitter, miserable, jealous, all of these things that they can't see you happy because they don't have, and they want to cut your baby in half? So there's a scripture in Proverbs 27:7, and basically it says, iron sharpens iron. Now, the thing it does not say, but I want us to take into account, is it does not always mean that that other iron is going to be sharp. Sometimes, me being who I am, I may have times where I ain't got it. I ain't got it. I can't pray for myself. I'm tired. I wore down, child. But I know that even though I am iron and my iron is dull right now, there are some other irons that are sharp that I can call. Many of them are on this line right now. I can call my sharp iron and say, hey, I am spent. Can you pray for me? Hey, I am going through it. Can you send up a word to me? My friends like to joke. I posted this back on my social media last week. One of my friends was like, girl, I was like, she was like, how are you doing? What you going through? I told you guys, it was like, what, last Tuesday or Wednesday, Lex? And I was like, I am in the bed and I don't know if I'm getting out. It is a hard day for me. One of my girls was like, I'm praying for you, but let me tell you what I know. I know that you got Jesus' beeper number and I ain't worried about you. People were like, I got you, you good, but I'm praying for you. And will hop on the phone and pray with me in the midst of, and at that time, get you some friends who, and let me tell you, when you tell somebody you're going to pray for them, let that not be the prayer. I'm going to pray for you, and that's the prayer. When you say you're going to pray for me, or you call me and say you need me to pray for you, let me tell you what I'm going to do. If I got time, I'm going to send you a voice note right now in the midst of, I'm stopping what I'm doing. Lord, you heard my sisters cry. This is what we coming to you on behalf. Satan, you have no power or authority. Get thee behind me. We whooping you. I'm knocking you out. Your teeth is missing. I'm taking you by your tail, slinging you back to hell. You can't have her. She ain't yours. I'm going to war for you right then. And if I can't send you the voice note, just know I'm going to stop where I am and I'm going to say a prayer for you. Because I don't want I'm praying for you to be your prayer, because I understand that ain't it. Don't send me them fake prayers. Keep it. And if that's the prayer you got, I don't even need you around me. I tell people I don't have acquaintances. I don't have people who are acquaintances of mine because I don't know how to deal with acquaintances. I have friends. I have iron. Because to me, if you're an acquaintance, you're a piece of wood. And if I'm iron, I'm going to cut you. Iron cuts wood. My sharpness is going to cut you. And I don't got time to be cutting no wood around here. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to sharpen and to be sharpened and to understand that not at all times am I the strong friends. Who the strong friends? If you're the strong, put in there a one. Let me raise your hand, do something. Because you think that you have to carry it all, and we are not meant to do life alone. But when you are inviting people into your space, when you are having people come around you, you have to have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom to discern if these people should be in your life. You need to have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom to discern when it's time for certain people to leave your life. You need to have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and say, God, is this where you would have me to be? Is this who you would have me to be in community with? Is this who you would have me to be in fellowship with? Sometimes you need to have knowledge, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom to be able to say, am I wrong? Am I the trouble? Do I need to ask for forgiveness? We talked about that, right? But this all comes again from starting with having the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom to be able to do all that. So you having one without the other is pointless. It's like having gas and no car. If you got a gas can and you ain't got nothing to put it in, it don't even matter. You need it to all things work together. And I'm going to tell you this, is that does not always mean things are going to be perfect. That's what we talked about the other day, that you might need to have a conversation. Conversations do not always mean confrontation. Because you have to have a hard conversation with somebody doesn't mean it has to be a confrontation. So when you're going into these conversations that you're now using your wisdom on, ask that. And this is another thing about wisdom. Wisdom will show you your heart posture. So sometimes if your heart posture is wrong, you say, God, give me the knowledge that I need to be able to say this. Give me the words to be able to say this. Give me the understanding to be able to see from that person's perspective, because we like to take offense so quickly. Oh, she did that. Oh, no, I can't even talk to her no more. I'm good. My cutoff game is real strong, but let me tell you, if I cut you off, it's because I done prayed to the Lord about it. And I know you ain't no good for me. I'm not going to say in life or for nobody else, but for me, you ain't. And so sometimes you have to have that approach in it too. Again, forgiveness does not mean fellowship. It does not mean friendship. I can forgive you and I can move on about my day and be just quite all right, sleeping peacefully in my bed. So reevaluate who is around you. And I will caution you that when you start to pray those prayers, and again, at this big age, we don't have time for reindeer games. Many of us will start to lose people, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with knowing that if they are wood, they do not need to be a part of your iron circle. When you look at an iron gate, you do not see wood in between that pieces of iron. They ain't holding up iron with wood. That ain't how it happens. When you see a wood gate, you see wood, but you see iron or steel or metal or something behind it because it can't stand on its own. So if you're going to be a part of an iron gate, make sure that you're a part of that gate, but make sure that you're not there always taking something from people. In a couple of days, we're going to talk about finances, but the biggest part of finances is giving and receiving. And so that's going to be a big part of what we talk about on that day, but we'll get there. But I want you guys to really take into this that it's so much bigger than just wisdom. And understanding that that is not even what Solomon asked for, but that was his exceedingly abundantly, that he got more because of that. He got more because he asked for understanding and he asked for discernment. He wanted knowledge. He wanted the information, and he wanted to be able to use the information for his for the comprehension for his understanding. So that's what I have for you guys today. I did have 5 people who sent in their prayer requests, but before we get into prayer, the prayer time, again, if you have not, make sure that you send your prayer request in before 5 p.m. because there's so many people in here, I can't write down your prayer requests. If you do put them in the chat, what I will do is I will go back and I will pray over them in my own personal time, because again, if I say I'm gonna pray for you, that's not gonna be the prayer. I'm gonna go back in the chat and I'm gonna pray over whatever prayer request you have put in the chat. But for the people that send them to me, those are the ones that will actually pray for it in addition to a general prayer that we have on here. Now, I've had 2 conversations, more than 2 conversations today, but 2 conversations that really stuck out with me today that I wanted to make sure that I shared with you guys. On day 1, I mentioned I have a program. It's a 12-week program called the Whole Woman Accelerator. It's a 12-week program. What we do in that program is basically, it's like prayer coaching, it is like therapy, and it is like life coaching all wrapped into one. I was going to school to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. I did a year and a half, and right before it was time for us to go into doing our practicum, which is when you have to get your credentialed hours, I quit. Why did I quit? Because one thing of being a therapist is you have to be very impartial, and you can't say and or do certain things. Now, one thing I'm going to do if you talk to me and you come to me telling me what's going on with you is I'm going to talk about Jesus. So it was very conflicting in my spirit for me to be able to have conversations with people in a therapy session and not bring up Jesus. And amongst other things, because I'm going to be real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try to make you feel good in the moment. I'm going to tell you what's honestly going on. And I realized that I would lose my license as a therapist. And so instead of continuing through with my MFT, I dropped out of that particular program. But all of the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom that was imparted to me, I now use for the Lord in a different way. So what happens is we go through these 12 weeks. There are 6 modules, and every single module is geared to help you grow a better and closer and personal relationship with God. So what you guys hear me talk about on here is surface. It gets very personal because what I do is I get one-on-one with you. And we do it in a group setting. I usually never have more than 5 people. I don't like to have more than 5 people because it gets very intimate and we go deep. So when we go through this program, I literally sit down with you. We go through our one-on-one, we go through our group sessions. And once we get into these group sessions, we begin to have these conversations, but not just in a general form, on a forum of what's going on with Alexis, what's going on with Tamara, what's going on with Tia. And I'm saying these names because they've actually been through the program. They've publicly said it. I don't tell people's business, so they don't tell their own business. What's going on with Martha? What's going on with you? So we personally get down into the root of this and the foundation of how you can strengthen your relationship with God in so many different ways. Now, why am I telling you that? Because again, I've had 2 conversations today that both struck a chord for me. And what people are going through right now, we need help. what people are experiencing, we feel as if we are in our own bubble. I had one person who was telling me today, like, I'm going on, I feel bad because I know I have so much to be grateful for. I feel like things are working in certain areas. They're going really great in certain areas, but in other areas, I feel like I'm failing. One thing God has gifted me in doing is that if you come and tell me what it is that you have been praying for, I can tell you where the prayer needs to be changed or altered. Why God gave me that gift, I don't know, but I'm grateful that He has. So when you come and tell me what the problem is, what the issue is, I'm typically able to sit down and say, okay, this is what you need. These are the fundamentals of where you are, and then go and these are the fundamentals of where you are, and then be able to go on and move on to what's next. And the fundamental practices that we do in that 12-week program, even if you don't use them all right then, if you ever get in a bind, you will have what you need to get out of it. That is why for me, even though I may spend a day in the bed, I'm not going to be in bed all week, because I have the foundations. And again, this does not exempt you from going through anything. It is not, remember, we're not pimping Jesus. We're not pimping God. He's not a genie in a bottle. It's not a magic wand. You will have trials and tribulations. However, it is not the trials and tribulations that get you down. It is not the trials and tribulations that the enemy is really trying to trick you up on, because that's the lesson. But we want to get to the next level of Mario Kart. So what this program literally does is help you be able to level up very quickly, without doing it on your own. So I'm going to open it up really quickly, because I know we had some ladies who were in the program who were on here, and I don't know, Lex said she wanted to share, but shout out that baby's voice. I'm gonna see if she's gonna do it. Keisha, I see your hand also. Go ahead, Lex. Oh. What? Oh.
I was saying let Keisha go.
Oh, okay. Hey, girl, hey. Go ahead, Keisha. You can come off mute. Keisha.
Hello. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, Funky Flair.
Hey, girl. So first and foremost, girl, you was on fire tonight, okay? You know I love you immensely. You've been my prayer coach for, what, 3 years now?
3 years, yeah.
Maybe four. But anyway,
yeah.
Maybe 4. I just wanted to say that what you talked about tonight in regards to pretty much going through a checklist and who's in your tribe. What I want to say to the ladies, because you actually taught me this, because I was having struggles with it years ago. Once you pray for discernment, and once you decide to say, God, please reveal and or remove whoever needs to be from my life, when you take it to the altar, you got to leave it there. And I think what happens is that with a lot of us, we're like, God revealed so-and-so to me. I've been playing with her in the sandbox since we were 4. If she can't go, she can't go. So when you're praying about God reveal and remove, leave them there, because everybody is not meant to go. That's all. You taught me that, girl.
Thank you, girl. Listen, and I don't even this is how I know it be God, because I don't even remember what I tell y'all half of the time, because it don't be me. It's just the Lord using my mouth to say certain things to y'all. So when you come back and tell me, I'll be like, that was good.
And you did.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Lex.
Hi, you guys. The devil is trying to attack me today, but I'm here. The Whole Woman Accelerator and HGG has definitely put me through a really tough season of my life over the last few years. And what the accelerator course really did was it gave me the knowledge in the beginning. I found a prayer partner. I set up my prayer closet. But so that was the beginning of 2021. It is still, I'm still getting the wisdom and the understanding from that this week, right? And it's like, oh, right. And I'll look back through the notes that Jaslyn had us write. She makes us like write down things that are very, very detailed. And we're able to look back on it, and like she said, have that thing to go back to later, so you don't stay in the situation. So I definitely suggest that everybody at least does the 15-minute consultation call to see if it's for you, because that time in my life I needed it. And I mean, I had been friends with Jaslyn for 20 years at that point, but this was different.
Thank you, girlfriend. One other thing I will say is, so Lexus was talking yesterday about some of the books I gave her to read during the time. And that is, I read a lot of books. And so I might, in the time of the group coaching, I might say, okay, you need to go listen to this podcast. You need to go listen to this YouTube. You need to go read this book. And we really break down in that 12 weeks how to break your own personal generational curses, because you're going to start telling me what it is, and we're going to go through the specific prayers, the specific scriptures that you need to be able to break that down. And so everybody, like, we can spill out books here, but they may not be the necessary book that you need for your situation and circumstances. So that's why having that one-on-one time in that small group is so important, because you don't just get general stuff. You get exactly what it is that you need for you. So what I'm going to do is, because I know it is 7:00 for my people on the East Coast, I know it's 10:00 for you guys, I'm going to pray for the 5 people that send us the prayers in, and we're going to do a general prayer, and then we are going to stay on, because I definitely want you guys to hear what you guys have to say about the lesson tonight, how it's impacted you. And then if there are any questions, we can do it at that time too. So I am going to pray us out, but then if it's you okay with staying up past 10:00, baby, stay on, because I'm gonna be here. Okay. So we're gonna go into that, and then we will, I'm gonna pray. We're gonna open the floor back up after that. So I'm gonna stop this recording, and then we'll start the next one.